Rock-a-bye, baby.
You want to go all the way back. I was born in an apartment down on Marshall and then moved to Stoner. Do the usual things. Skating, bicycling, playing baseball. I never was any good, but it was fun, except when they hit a ball, it went about 2 blocks down the hill and you had to go chase it and bring it back, but that was the only ball we had, so they couldn't start till I got back. First thing you saw was a memorial to the 50% of the freshman class that wouldn't be there next year.
He had a wonderful tutor, and that was probably one of his best friends, and he always refers to him as his boss, and that was his daddy. And Mr. Wheless, Nick's father, saw to it that Nick had the proper indoctrination into the oil business. He put him out in the oil field.
And I don't know whether you researched his standing on the national scene of the oil business, but it's pretty substantial.
How do you know that?
Because I know the famous people he plays golf with, and he goes to those conventions. Boone Pickens, for one, a good friend he is.
George Bush. George Bush was not new to Nick. Nick knew him in the business.
Best time for activity was in the late 70s, early 80s, but it was a time that was scary because people were drilling wells based on expectation of $70, $80, $100 oil. As one guy said, when the assistant pro at the Houston Country Club tries to sell you an oil deal, you know the boom is about to end.
Not in Nick's organization. When he didn't have a rig running, he had the full complement of people in his office.
Many times he should have done that, but he did not or could not bring himself to do it.
Possibly would have gotten out of the drilling business if it hadn't been at some certain times that it would have affected so many people. If I considered it, it was just in passing. I said, we ain't gonna do that.
Because?
What would those folks have done?
He's just a wonderful guy and has a wonderful sense of humor. He's a great guy to have on a hunt. He's got a good memory. He tells a lot of stories. He's a good listener. But he's just enjoyable to be around.
Say, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking?
One time, I think his daughter got tired of him wearing those radio clothes he wore and gave it all to the Goodwill and went somewhere and bought him a whole new wardrobe. He came out one day in his car. It was an old Cadillac, and he had the back window taped. And I said, well, Wheless, I believe you could afford to get either the window fixed or a new car. And he said, well, it runs perfectly.
Nick reads the paper every morning with particular emphasis upon the obituary section, and he counts the number of persons who died older than he and the number who died younger than he. And based on that determination, he has a good day or a bad day.
He likes not to be in the limelight. I know you know that now, but I don't know what you're going to do with this, but he doesn't particularly. In fact, I was surprised one time when he accepted to be king of Cotillion. In fact, if you have heard the conversations that we gave about that, it must have lasted at least 2 weeks. And to see him with the crown and everything, it was really, gave us 2 weeks of fun.
I'm gonna throw my date book over the fence.
Whereas Nick Wheless, after finishing M.I.T., came back to Shreveport and melded nicely again into this Louisiana community of Bubbas and Peckerwoods, and whereas Bubbas have honorable names such as Bubba Raspberry and Bubba Shimmerhorn, but seem to get into trouble when they move out of the areas. Witness Bubba Clinton in Washington.
Stand up with me.
Nick and I have roomed together duck hunting and dove hunting. We fish together, and you get to know a fella very, very well, as you perhaps know when you are in a blind together, just the two of you, for a period of 3 or 4 hours. He's a guy of great integrity. When the man's word was his bond, and that's the kind of a guy Nick is. He's loyal. He's very considerate of the people who work for him. They love him. And he does so many things that people don't know about. And I mean, like just visitations to friends of his who might be in the hospital. Never said anything about it. First thing you know, you're trailing Nick because he'd been there before you've been there.
With Nick, I think what you see really is what you get. And what you get is a very modest, unpretentious individual without any sign of vanity or ego.
He's 80, am I right?
80.
80 years old.
He doesn't look it, does he? His mind's about 35.
Nick has a keen sense of fairness, whether in business dealing or in personal dealing, and he has a strong determination always to do the right thing. He has a very strong dedication to his family, to his daughter and his 3 grandchildren. And likewise, he has a strong sense of loyalty and support for all of his friends and all of his fellow workers. In fact, I don't think you can find any individual more loyal than Nick Wheless.
It's been a pleasure to know him, or someone like him. I run into people like that very often, especially in business. I mean, he does right. Now, you can cut it any way you like, but I don't know of any faults Nick has.
In a learning process, as you grow, as you develop in personal life and in business, and you observe a man's life and how he conducts himself in all these relationships, and that's a quiet teaching without his ever saying anything or without his ever being aware that he is a teacher. But I think he is, and I think men like him are teachers for generations that succeed them. And as they say, they're just not making men like that anymore.